So you have a itinerary and you love overlanding. You have plans to do it big on the trails and some super glamping. One idea, tip, news and reviews, a podcast the first rate and here just for you. You don't have to think about it, join us and be about it. Something interesting we want to hear about it, come on let's talk about it. Welcome to Waypoint Overland's Random Waypoints Podcast.
Sponsored by Midland. Communication for every adventure. The industry leader in radio communication technology and innovation for over 50 years. Sponsored by My Medic. Sponsored by Tembo Tusk. Sponsored by Trail Rated Coffee Company.
Always remember, the opinion you follow should be your own. Just consider the things stated here to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online.
Hi, I'm Phil from Waypoint Overland, and you're listening to Random Waypoints. All right, so here we go. Welcome to another episode of the Random Waypoints podcast. We'll be doing an episode every week, so like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to make sure you don't miss an episode. This week, we're right outside of Mexican Hat, Utah, with a very special guest, Michael Ladden from Driving the Globe. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you. I mean, you cannot beat where we're sitting here right now, right?
Not at all. I hope that the camera is giving due justice to this view, which is almost impossible. Before we get started, I just want to talk to the audience and let them know something about you from my perspective, and that is Mike was supposed to be the very first interview that I did for this podcast. We've actually done it 2 times, and due to technical difficulties, we weren't able to produce the episode each time.
So this is try number 3.
This is try number 3, so I hope you like it. So, Mike, let's get right into it. My first question is, did you grow up overlanding?
The quick answer is yes. Not by definition of like overlanding the word, of course, back in the day, but I definitely grew up outdoors. My dad had Jeeps and Land Cruisers and different trucks that we used to, whether it was plowing the driveway or going to the dump or going on vacation up in, backwoods Maine or somewhere. I guess you could consider that to be overlanding. So to answer the thing quickly, always outside. Love to be outside.
Okay. So for those who don't know you, which is hard to imagine, the people who watch this probably know you better than they know me. But for those who don't know, let's go through a quick little bio. You're the person who's famous for the orange vehicles that you drive.
That's right. Currently, I'm driving number 3. It's his nickname, actually, 3, because I've had 2 previous, I call them big overland orange rigs. The first one was a old forward control Land Rover, and then the second one was a Mercedes Unimog that I had for at least a dozen years. So this is sort of the third iteration, if you will, of the big overland rig. Now, in my day, I really was a Land Rover guy, and I've had, I don't know how many different Land Rovers. And in fact, I still own an old 1965 Series 2A Land Rover that I took across Africa, and it's actually back east right now in Connecticut in my mom's garage. But I've owned that thing for, God, I don't know, about probably say 28 years.
So this is a personal question. Maybe the viewers will want to hear it too. Why orange? You're known for your signature color of orange.
I don't want to give away my secrets, but it's Kubota tractor orange, so it's not even like a Mike formula. It's the old Kubota tractor orange, not the new one. But I get asked that a lot, actually, because there's a lot of people that think better to be discreet, particularly if you're traveling in developing countries, or try to get less attention. I have the opposite theory to that. I think especially when it's a big vehicle like that you're almost better off being the circus, if you will, coming into town. Because what I found over my years is that 95% of all people are good people, right? So if you've got 100 people in a crowd that are looking at you, 95 of them are gonna protect you from the 5 bad guys. So I have the opposite theory about, instead of being discreet, just be right out there. And furthermore, I think it's from a safety and security perspective, it's good. But also, I got to tell you, I just meet a ton of people through that truck. Because of its bright color or whatever, they approach. It's approachable. And so the orange came from. I said, well, what color am I going to go with? It can't be white, right? Because that's UN. It can't be green or tan because that's military. So you start running out of colors quickly. So I came down to, well, it's got to either be yellow, orange, or pink, I guess. And orange just happens to be my favorite of the 3. So that's kind of why.
So let's talk about the attention that your vehicle gets. I've had the opportunity a few times to see the reactions that people give you at gas stations, expos, and other events. And you pretty much, your vehicle is like a celebrity. No matter where you go, no matter what you're doing, people stop you to ask you about your vehicle. How do you feel about that? Is that a positive, a negative, or?
Well, I mean, most of the time, that's obviously a positive thing because, the goal, for me anyways, of traveling is to, explore new things, meet new people, find out about what other people are doing in other places on the planet. So I think that's a great thing because it's sort of like it's a key. It's a key that opens a door to a connection. So it's something that starts a conversation. And in particular, I'm not super outgoing. So, I think if I had a nondescript, say, white van or something and people did not approach me quite as much, I probably wouldn't talk to nearly as many people. So I think it's a good thing. Now, having said that, yeah, everybody has bad days and everybody has, something goes wrong or the truck's leaking something and you're at a fuel station, filling up and, next thing you know, there's 6 guys that want to, ask you about, how come it's got a snorkel or why does it do this or how big are the tires or, so that can get old. And specifically what I think gets old for me anyways is that when the conversation totally sticks with the truck. And, I've had a lot of different trucks, but I wouldn't consider myself to be a truck guy, meaning like it's not about the vehicle. And I tell people all the time, whether it's 4-wheel drive or 2-wheel drive or like my motorcycle has 2 wheels, or riding your bike or whatever it is, just get out there, meet people, and have an adventure. It is not about the vehicle. The vehicle is the tool to get you out there.
Thanks for saying that, Mike. I'm constantly trying to impress that upon people. Forget about the gear. Get out and do something.
Yeah.
Your goal should be life-changing experiences, not
right.
The latest bumper.
It's not how many rotopacks you have or how many traction ladders or whatever are strapped to the side of the vehicle, because we all can do that, right? And the reality is like if you're doing it correctly, you're probably not you're avoiding situations where you're going to really have to actually use those things anyways. Because if you're using them, something's gone wrong, right? And the goal is to try to not have things go wrong.
Absolutely. So, I have trouble sometimes explaining that to people, that the goal is to keep the wheels on the ground and to keep the journey going, not to break your vehicle and test its limits.
That's right.
Now, you do try to prepare your vehicle so you can overcome those challenges, but you're not looking for them.
No, and I think I learned that probably the first time, going across Africa. You would easily get into multitudes of challenges without trying to do it, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember probably prior to going there and really spending a lot of time driving over there, I used to, go off-roading and wheeling all the time. And I'm not suggesting, by the way, that you shouldn't do that or that it's not fun or that I couldn't still do that. But I will tell you my attitude towards that changed significantly, after I had what I would call real-world experience. And you would, try to avoid that mud hole with every ounce of energy that you had. Whereas, back in the day, you'd be like, mud hole, let's see if we can get through that, out in the middle of the woods. But that's different. you're probably 20 miles from a road and 15 minutes from a McDonald's or something. It's a whole different thing when you're off grid somewhere out really remotely. The last thing you want to do is compromise either your vehicle or, more importantly, your safety by getting into a situation that you can't get out of or that's challenging. So that's a big deal to me.
I agree. I kind of jumped the gun here. Let's go back. So, Mike, let's go through this journey as to how you got to the point that you are now. Where are you from?
Well, I grew up on the East Coast, so I grew up in Connecticut and spent most of growing up, in New England or certainly on the east side of the United States. And then, through travels and stuff. But I guess my original wanderlust, if you will, or getting into the whole adventure travel scene came in the early 90s, actually, when a guy that I worked with at a company, this was, not too long after college, and he said to me, hey, Mike, you want to go to Africa? And I tell the story sometimes because I think at the time, truthfully, I'm not sure I knew where Africa was or what it was. And I go, well, I hated my job. And I said, well, that sounds like a good idea. What do we got to do? And he's like, well, we just got to go get a bunch of shots and, get our one-way ticket. And the long and short of it is that's what happened. And we ended up going to Africa and traveled all over North, Central, and Eastern Africa. And that's how it started. And by the way, that was not with a vehicle. So that wasn't, quote, overland based. That was, hitchhiking, camel, matatu, taxi, bus, train, you name it. We got around.
So what was the biggest impression that was left with you from that first trip to Africa?
Well, it's a big world, and there's a lot of people out there. And I think most importantly is that there are people everywhere. There's two things I've found out. Here we are. We're sitting, look at this view behind us. We are sitting out in what I would be considered to be the middle of nowhere, really.
Absolutely.
But there's always going to be some guy popping his head over the rock over here. And that happens in Africa. It happens in South America. It happens wherever you are. The world is a big place, but there are people everywhere. And the people are kind of the same no matter where you go.
Agreed.
And that's fascinating to me. And the second takeaway that I brought back from Africa was that's how I got into overlanding, if you will, because I discovered the classic Discovery Channel Land Rover. And I had never really seen that before, and I saw them in Africa. And when I got back to the United States, I was like, I got to get me one of those. I've never really seen one. And I ended up searching it out, and I bought my 65 Series, and that's the truck I still own today.
So when you got back from Africa, you immediately started moving forward towards overlanding?
I did. I got super into the Land Rover scene back in the day. There were a bunch of different Land Rover clubs. We would go on different adventures. We'd go up to Canada for things. We'd travel around, camp, and yeah. So it really was the Land Rover thing. And actually, I think probably the first 4 or 5 vehicles that I overlanded with were all Land Rovers. I've had over the years, I've had a bunch of different newer ones, Defenders and Range Rovers and different things. And yeah, it was Land Rovers. And it wasn't really until I broke out with the Unimog that replaced that forward control military Land Rover that I had, where I kind of was like, started branching into other kinds of vehicles.
So what was the very next trip? After such a momentous trip to Africa, what was the comeback? What was the very next trip? I'm just curious about that.
Well, you get Africa in your blood, and I went back. I've been back a number of times, many times at this point, and I think there was a time. Well, there was some time that went by. I did an Arctic Circle trip. I did some things up in northern Canada, on the eastern province, Labrador, Newfoundland, and then we planned for a number of years, and I think a lot of people probably know me through Vintage Rovers Across Africa, and that was in 2001. And we basically organized, there were 8 guys, 4 old Land Rovers. The newest Land Rover at the time was, 25 years old at least. They were all from the early 70s or mid 60s like mine. And we put that trip together. and went about 8,000 miles across Western Africa. We actually shipped the trucks to Spain and then drove down through Morocco, went around through Mali and Timbuktu and Mauritania and all those countries on the sort of the eastern Sahara side. And that was like, that was just an unbelievable experience, obviously, because it was complicated by the fact of you got to remember back then it was sort of pre-cell phone, GPS kind of thing. Because I can remember charting our way through with a map through the Sahara with no road. You just go like there is sand, and we had 4 trucks, and I'd be driving here, and I'd look over. Al would be a quarter mile that way. We're all driving the same direction, and we kind of were doing it by the sun and various other things. So different back then a little bit.
So when people ask about technology and gear, I would say in the overlanding culture, in my opinion, one of the biggest technological progresses that was made, in my opinion, was digital maps. It changed my life.
Absolutely.
I
use them all. I use, I have Garmin Overlander that I use that's plugged in with Gaia. That's plugged in with, a bunch of old Delorme stuff. I use, what's that other one called? There's just a slew of them. I try to put every app I can in there, and I live by waypoints, right? It's funny, Waypoint Overland. There you go. See, there's a good segue. But I live by that because you can run into somebody, just casually, and they go, hey, it's like us sitting right here. Have you ever visited that spot? It's just absolutely amazing. And I could say, well, here's your GPS point, and they can go and do it then. And likewise, we share them back and forth. So, and it works anywhere in the world, and it works without cell coverage and everything else that you come to rely on in modern technology. But the mapping is just infinitely. I mean, I've got old pictures of us in the Land Rovers going across Africa with behind our heads. People laugh at this still. They look at some of my old YouTube videos, and we've got like all of the Africa on a shoestring books and all these books with all the maps lined up behind our head. And of course, every time we hit some big bump or something, the books and maps are flying over our head. But that's what it was all like printed. Mm-hmm. And, as you know, printing is a moment in time, so it's only going to be as good as when it was printed. And you'd be going along some road, and next thing you know, well, the map says this, but, geez, I don't even see a road here, and that's what happens.
So after the epiphany of traveling to Africa, how long was it from that point before you became a full-time overlander traveling the world?
Over the course of after 2001, when we did that Africa trip, I've done a number of other big trips. I went back to Morocco a couple times. I've done, I basically went across Canada. I've done every province in Canada. I spent a lot of time traveling, both with and without trucks, through Europe and through, Central America and different places. But I tell people, I kind of took a decade off, and I'm not saying I didn't go on trips and things, but I largely took off hardcore traveling for about 10 years while I was developing business and just working. I was working a ton of hours. Mm-hmm. So, and I think that's the main reason, to be honest, is why we're sitting here right now today, is because after that period of time, I said, this is not what life is going to be about. This is not, I'm losing track of what I want to go back to. I've done it in the past, and that's the point at which I got rid of everything. And now I think we're sitting here today. This is close to day 700 that I've been living in the truck on the
Beautiful.
road.
I love it. I love it. So what were some of the challenges to get to that point where you were full-time, you felt comfortable walking away from the job?
It's hard because there's never, I think people out there probably, you guys are listening to us and trying to decide, how much is enough? What do I need to do to get to this point? How do I be like Mike or Phil or somebody else? My quick answer to that is you just got to do it. There is never going to be the perfect time, right? You're never going to you're never going to have enough money or stuff or you could get ready to get ready to get ready forever.
Right.
There's never, when you finally put the wheels on the road and start driving, this truck is a good example of this. Well, actually, this whole trip that I've been on right now is a good example of this, because I left 2 years ago to go around the world. I'm still in North America, and I'm on the second truck. I'm not even with the truck that I started with.
Mm-hmm.
So, you start rolling down the road and you go, oh, wow, I forgot to do this and I forgot that and I didn't bolt this down and, blah, blah, blah. And then eventually, after about a year, I was like, well, this isn't even the right truck. So you're never ready, I guess. Is my truck perfect now?
I think it is.
Yeah. No. I mean, it's not.
I want to go into a conversation that we were having yesterday that falls in line with this. Between the two of us, I think we know a pretty large amount of travelers, international travelers, overlanders, and such. And I think we both agree that the people who are really out there doing it, the majority of them, their gear is not the latest, greatest.
No.
They took minimum and just hit the road.
This will be unpopular for me to say, but there's two kinds of people in the, I'll call it the overland world. I don't even like that word. There's the kind of people that are actually doing it, and then there's the kind of people that are getting ready to do it. And the kind of people that are actually doing it, half the time their gear is old, it's not the latest and greatest, it's what works, it's what they've had, it might be what their means are, whatever the reason is. And then there's the people that have the latest and greatest things. And I, not to be critical, but oftentimes I've noticed that they haven't even tested them when they go out. But this is the first thing. I don't go out on the road with anything unless I've tested it a zillion times, because it never works, right? Nothing ever works. I mean, you guys didn't see this, but even setting up to, sit here and film, we have to go through a process of like 15 things. Otherwise,
exactly.
Otherwise, hey, this is the third take on this. We screw it up. That's what happens. And we've been doing it for a long time.
Right.
But it's not about the latest and greatest stuff. It's people get really sucked into the gear and I call it the glitz and the glam of it. But
like I was telling you yesterday, most people are very, very underwhelmed when they see what I have, what the modifications are.
Yep.
And I want you to comment on this.
I just laugh.
I always just make the statement that imagine how much travel you can do with $1,000 towards travel versus a bumper.
That's right. That's right. And that's a big thing, because most of us have to make a decision between what we spend money on, right? It's not endless. So you got to decide. And to use you as an example, so if your Jeep doesn't have, it's got a 2-inch lift, it doesn't have the latest 4-inch Icon, I'm making stuff up at this point, but it doesn't have the latest and greatest suspension system, whatever. But that was going to cost, $4,000. But you can spend $4,000 coming to Mexican Hat, and we can hang out here and look at this, and then we can spend 3 weeks on the road, whatever it is. Hell, for $4,000 a month, I don't think I spent that all winter.
Right.
So and in my case, well, look, I've gotten criticized for building my overland rig with IKEA cabinets. And people are like, oh no, you can't, no, you can't use IKEA cabinets. They're going to fall apart. They don't have, the latest and greatest marine push-button, clippy-clip, I don't know what they're called, that keep the cabinets closed when you move. It doesn't have that. Well, I've gone down some pretty nasty roads. In fact, the one coming in here was bumping and bouncing all over the place. No, my cabinets didn't open up. They're still there. They look like like they did yesterday. So, really? What did I spend on IKEA? They're cheap. In the scheme of everything costs money, right? But I could have spent tens of thousands of dollars on overland, marine grade cabinetry and whatever. We're talking hundreds of dollars.
Now, hopefully, I will have done a rig walk around with you, and you just click right here, and you can look at the rig walk around of his vehicle.
Yes, right there. Somewhere. I always do that. By the way, I always point to the wrong side of the screen, almost 100% of the time.
I really want you guys to watch the rig walk around because he's talking about IKEA cabinets, but they're beautiful.
Well, and that's the thing is, so you don't, cheap or inexpensive or not what is considered to be mainstream doesn't have to be poor, bad, or ugly.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I understand. I 100% agree. Staying right on that, another thing that we were talking about, what's your opinion on purchasing a brand spanking new vehicle or a vehicle that's already been on the market 2 or 3 years? Do you feel like there's an advantage to buying the latest, greatest? Is there an advantage to buying an older vehicle? Where do you stand on it?
Well, this is an opinionated comment for sure. I do not believe in buying new things. To me, the older the better. And I probably witnessed that as driving across Africa in a 25, 30-year-old vehicle. And right now, my newest vehicle that I own is a 1994 store in Stevenson, what I live in. That's my newest vehicle. My Land Rover I still have is, whatever that is, 50-something years old. The problem with the latest and greatest is that it's not been real-world tested. And nothing substitutes for real-world testing, in my opinion. And I tell people, I've been an instructor at Overland Expo now for 9 years, and over the years they seem to always ask me to teach the same class about choosing a vehicle for your adventure, and I almost always open up by saying there is no correct vehicle. Whether you're rooftop tenting or living inside a truck like me or in the back of a camper van or, a tent camping on the ground or whatever your setup is. And where that goes with the vehicle thing is like there isn't a perfect choice of a truck. And a lot of that has to do with what you're doing. So to answer your question about new, for me, I'm looking at more world travel, not just United States based. And even, I'll tell you, after spending 5 months down in Mexico this past winter, the fuel is not the same, right? So you buy a brand new vehicle, a 2022, and then you try to run it through even Mexico for that matter, or certainly Africa or South America, where the fuel standards are not the same.
Right.
Next thing you know, you got basically a big electronic piece of junk that doesn't start. So, not my thing. Now, if you're going to do a national park tour of the United States, and you're going to be able to get super unleaded locally all the time, then maybe that doesn't matter as much. But and I can't say I've never done it. I had a Jeep JL, first year JL. So so have I bought a brand new truck? Yes, I have. But that wasn't, my life wasn't dependent upon that. I was using that as sort of a local thing, my daily driver. I was wheeling it and, that kind of thing. But so it depends on what you're doing.
Well, when I'm asked this question, which I get asked often, I generally tell them, you want a modern vehicle, but you don't want a vehicle that just came out this year.
Right.
And you want an older vehicle. To me, the advantage is, if you're going on international trips, if you're going in remote places, you need to be able to fix it.
Yep.
And
that's huge.
So when I was referring to older, I was referring to a vehicle that you've had for a few years. Like my Jeep, it's hard for me to get rid of it because I know everything about that Jeep.
Yep.
If I get broken down, most things I know what to do.
That's right.
And another thing, especially with international travel, the disadvantage of a new vehicle is, depending upon what village or town or whatever you're in, that mechanic may not have a clue as to what to do with it.
And there's no way they've got the computer. There's no way. Great case in point, I had my motorcycle down in Mexico. It's a 2021. Nobody in the entire Mexico has the computer to, clear the engine codes. That's just the way it is. So, that's a big thing. But I to go back on what you said, which is probably the most important thing, I don't think I would do a trip that I'm doing right now, meaning that I would not live as a nomad on the road full time in something that I did not have a very significant hand or totally built myself, because I know everything about the truck. I know, all of a sudden I got a leak of water on the floor or something. I'm the one that plumbed it, right? Mm-hmm. I know what's going on, and that's invaluable, because, as you know, fixing things. Everything breaks, right? And then fixing things on the road is infinitely harder than it is in a nice, sterile garage at home.
Absolutely.
So, it's a lot easier when you know it and you built it. So I think there's a huge value in, and I'm not at all a mechanic. I am not. And do I know how to do a lot of things mechanically? Yes. How have I learned that? Watching people that actually know what they're doing, watching YouTube, different ways of finding out about stuff, and then simply doing it. I call it failing forward, right? You're failing forward because you try something, oh shit, that didn't work, so you try something else. But I'm not a mechanic, but I do think that it is in your best interest to be as mechanically inclined as you possibly can.
Absolutely.
When you're out there.
And not only that, in my opinion, like, for instance, I always tell people, if you're going to get like a dual battery system, you should install it.
Yep.
And the reason is because you want to know where every wire is. You want to know if my system shuts down, I can repair this thing.
Right.
So you don't have to install everything. I'm not saying you have to install everything, but the vitals, you should install them. Or you should be.
If you don't do it, you should either be present when it happens.
Yes.
And at least get a good tour of how it works and why we did it this way.
Right. I think training is highly undervalued in this community. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Most people I speak to, when they are wrong about something, when I ask them about where they got that information, oh, I got it from a guy on YouTube that's real popular.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's like saying everything on Google is right.
Right.
Yeah.
Which kind of is the reason why I always recommend people should at least once go to Overland Expo, and not just to visit, but to take the full VIP experience. I'm sorry, the Overland experience, and take as many classes as possible.
Yep.
And as many classes as you can take, you still need to take more.
Yep. It's funny you say that, because the people that get that, oftentimes I see classes full of people that, in my opinion, are super talented and super skilled. And they're the ones that are in the class, whether they're instructing it or actually taking the class. But they are immersing themselves with information.
Yes.
And, which is, infinitely better than the person that's going to be like the know-it-all, that's like, well, I don't need to take that class. I've done that. Well,
right.
Hell, I mean, we've done a lot of things, but that's scratching the surface. There's a lot of things I have no idea.
Well, I had been off-roading and using a winch for many years before I ever took a winch class, and found out almost everything I was doing was wrong. Yep. And could kill me.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, it's funny you say winching, because that's a class that I've taken as well. And boy, I mean, I would agree. I think probably everything that I did before that was doing wrong. And totally wrong. Like, not just a little wrong.
Right.
Like way wrong.
Same here. And even when people do decide to go to things like Overland Expo and take classes, they usually will overlook the classes like, oh, winch, I know how to do that one. Yeah. No, you need to take classes in everything that you do as far as overlanding.
Yeah. I think I was telling you the other day, I even when I'm an instructor, I tend to want to instruct the newbie classes. I like working with the people that are just, their minds are open, they're willing to listen, they want to be sponges. And because they're not tainted by, we can get tainted if we, have been doing it for so long. You think, well, I've been doing it this way. I'm still alive. It works, But,
Well, I've actually filmed your classes. I've seen you do your classes. And you say it's a newbie class, but within the first 5 minutes, I heard something like, oh, let me jot that down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
oh yeah.
you never know where you're going to get the information. You just need to be open to it.
Yep.
And make sure that you know it.
Yep. And now that we're on the Overland Expo subject, right now, that is the premier event in the United States to go to for education. I mean, there are various overlanding, van life, nomad events that are out there, but to my knowledge, probably in the world, truthfully, for education, that is the place, because they bring in just an unbelievable talent pool of people. And we were sitting around the campfire last night talking about this. One of the reasons is not just because the talent pool shows up because they want to be an instructor. The talent pool shows up because a lot of us want to. It's like a yearly reunion almost. You go to see. A lot of us know various other people, whether it's through social media or through other events that we've been to, or other bumping into them traveling on the road, but. That's what draws those people. They come in from, I tell the story. I'll tell it real quick. My very first Overland Expo, I get out of my truck. I have got to take a leak. I hop out of the truck. This is it. This is actually in Flagstaff. I run into the men's room, and the guy, coming out, he said, "Hey, how's it going? How's it going? I just came in. I forget what I said. I said something to the effect, oh yeah, I just drove. I drove across the country, whatever." He goes, yeah. I just came in. I've been down to Patagonia. I came up from South America. I've been on the road for like 6 months coming up here. Oh, I guess driving across the United States isn't such a big deal, is it?
Gotta up my game.
Yeah, but you immediately within 20 minutes of being there, you're like, wow, there's some fascinating people here with fascinating stories. And, just some of the learning I'm talking about doesn't necessarily have to happen in a class.
Right.
It can happen just organically, standing in the beer line at the beer tent. And starting up a conversation with somebody, and you find out things, and they tell you places like, wow, I've never even heard of that. I really want to go. So that's, to me, amazing.
We're an example of the other portion of social.
Yep.
How many, just think about how many people you've met at Overland Expos that you somewhere down the line met somewhere in another state or another country that you've, whoa, look.
Whoa! I don't know if you guys saw that, but we're getting dive bombed. That was pretty cool.
I love it. I lost my spot.
We're talking about people that we've met at Expo we've run into, and I have even this winter. I ran into several people in Baja. I ran into people coming across the United States that I had met. It's amazing, really. That's how we met,
right? But we had actually seen each other a few times before we actually spoke. Because like I even saw, what really happened was once I saw you at the Vermont Overland Rally, I was like, oh, he's in it to win it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Vermont Overland, yeah.
You were validated to me then. So I was like, okay, next time I see him, I'm speaking to him.
Yeah.
And here we are.
And here we are, sitting on a rock. And my choice of black shirt in the blazing sun is probably not the greatest idea in the world, but hey.
So there are many, many benefits to Expo. I hear the laymen talk about Expo and they're like, they're just there to sell you a bunch of stuff. And they are absolutely there to sell you a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, if you want to go and buy trinkets, gadgets, and gizmos for the side of your truck to hang on it, that is the place to go. Highly recommend you go down there, spend $10,000 to $20,000, and it's going to be a great time. But there's a lot more to it than that.
Right. If you are wondering about the latest, greatest new vehicles that are about to come out, most times they like to introduce themselves at Expo. Like the Rivian, I remember in 2019, we got to see the Rivian before anybody got to see it. The Ford Bronco before anybody got to see it.
Harley-Davidson's new adventure bike they brought out last
the Pan American, I think.
Yep.
So there are so many benefits to going. If you are going to do this, if you are going to make this your lifestyle, there are so many benefits. The training is there, the gear is there, the people are there.
Yeah, that's the number one thing.
Yes.
The number one thing is the people. You're never going to get so far we have not gotten an event that has the people selection that has.
Right. There's no reason for me to continue to go to these Overland Expos. I no longer take any of the classes. I'm just there to see old friends and to meet new ones.
Yep. Likewise.
So, what do we got here on this table here?
Oh boy. So, I know Phil because I watch his podcast, so I know that he likes to occasionally try something different in the spirit world, right?
Yes, I do.
So, I have this bottle. It's called Bacanora, and I got it from a buddy. And it's funny to tell the story. Here's a guy, as a good example of this, that I met through Instagram, right? And people ask me, how come you go to some of these things and what's your goal? And sometimes it's, it sounds weird to say, well, if I go to Overland Expo, I'm going to get, 2,000 new Instagram followers. Now, that's just a number, right? Who really cares? I don't take myself seriously for that. But what it does get is somebody follows you. And then in the case of George, he had messaged me or something. I had come through Yuma, Arizona on my way down to Mexico, and he wanted to stop by to take a look at the at my rig. And anyways, he said, next time you come through Yuma, you're welcome to stay at my house. I got plenty of place for you to park, whatever. Well, the long and short of it is I came out of Mexico, and that's what I did. And I ended up staying with him for, 3 or 4 days. Anyways, he introduced me to this Bacanora, which is, and this is totally wrong, but Americans really haven't heard of this, but I'm going to give you Mike's definition of it. It's kind of like tequila that doesn't come from the tequila region of Mexico, so it can't be really called that. It's kind of like Scotch if it can't. All right, Phil, come on, give it a try. Let's see it.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers. It has a deep, dark smell. It smells good.
I like the smoke. The smoke is, there you go. That probably isn't helping that we're out in the blazing saddle sun here. Now, it's a little warmer than it ought
my
to be.
audience is probably going to make fun of me because I always on these segments tell them how I don't drink.
Right.
But I'm always drinking.
That's funny.
It's actually smooth even though I had that reaction to it.
It is actually very smooth. It is a tad. It's got a little bit of smoke to it.
Yes.
Like an earthy smoke almost.
It has a pepper tone to it also.
And a little bit of pepper. It's not like, obviously there's a range of mezcals out there that from really smoky to sort of, more mild, but it's somewhere, I would say, on the less smoky, but it still has a real nice flavor.
I agree. Nice. And I know there's no caramel in there, but I taste like a caramel to it.
Yeah, it's like caramelized a little bit. It's got a little bit of little sweetness, I think is what you're probably looking for there. Yeah.
But a bitter sweetness, if you will.
Yep.
I definitely like the flavor of this.
And even more importantly, it's going to make for, the second part of our segment here probably even more exciting and interesting after we drink this.
So I have a question about this. You were given this. Is this something that I can buy in the States?
Well, I can't totally answer that question. I believe that these guys are going to be bringing it in. I don't know the answer to that. I think my understanding is, and I've been in the beverage world through my restaurants for years, and I actually had never heard of a Bacanora. So I don't think it's commonly available here yet. And this bottle is not American. It looks like they may be exporting it to, this is a UK thing. So I don't know. We'll definitely find out and check back on that, though.
So my audience is used to me giving my idea of the taste. You guys have heard me mention one of my favorite tequilas being Casa Amiga.
Casa Amigos.
It reminds me of that, but a little darker, a little more flavorful.
And this does say añejo, so it's definitely aged. 100% agave. So it's the same. It's from, I don't know if I mentioned this. It's Sonora. So that's the province or the state, the Mexican state that it's from is Sonora.
Well, you know what this drinking is making me think about? The parties that you throw at Expo. If you're not at his party, you're not at the party. Now, that's not to say you have to come to this party, but I think your parties are the party of Expo each year.
We always try something different. So, like, you'll remember last fall we decided sort of on the spur of the moment with Family Adventures Overland, we decided we're going to do a Scottle cook-off.
Shout out to Family Adventure.
Yep. And the funny part is that neither one of us was prepared in the slightest. So we were both trying to do, the theme was Mexican because I was going to Baja. And we decided to do Mexican, and we were missing some key ingredients to making, I think we were trying to do some tacos on the Scottle, and I'm pretty sure we were missing any kind of Mexican cheese. That was the first problem that my camp had. And I forget what their problem was, but it was equally bad. But it ended up, actually, what we made ended up being great.
Yeah, because I was like, y'all ran out of food.
We did.
We ate everything you guys served.
That's right.
And that was great because it wasn't just a cook-off. Everybody hung out. There were some new people to the Overland community.
Yep.
I can't think of their names with the guys that are going around the world right now in the Toyota.
They are, I can't either. It's funny because Mako Adventures.
Mako Adventures.
I missed them in Mexico. We were very close to each other, but we didn't end up hooking up. They were there. Staples and Tents. Came over, and we had a little good get-together. And then we ended up having, I don't know how we managed this, and I'm not sure who was responsible, but somehow we ended up with the band from Overland Expo coming over to our campground. So, I mean, hey, good times.
Well, over the course of the evening, word got out that where you were was where the party was.
It happens.
I remember when I was walking over, I overheard some other people walking to it, and they were like, "Where's the party?" And someone said, "That orange Jeep on the hill." That's like
right.
a Jeep.
Yeah. So maybe a little bit bigger than a Jeep, but yeah, similar.
So I want everybody to know what you do at Expo, because I've had the opportunity to, like I told everybody, to film you doing your class. I've had the opportunity to see the interaction. But I'd like you to get into it, what you teach at Overland Expo.
Well, that's always a potpourri of mystery, because I never know from year to year exactly what it's going to be. This year, I'm going to be talking about two different panels, I believe, that I'm involved with. One, talking about planning and going to Baja, Mexico. The other one is going to be talking about Africa. I think it's more generalized, but travel, some security concerns, places to avoid, places to go, different sites to see. I'm going to be talking about Africa. And then I have two different sessions that, it's got a name to it. And the reason I'm not using it is because I like to ad-lib my classes a little bit, meaning that you could give it catchy names and phrases and stuff, but when the people get there, what I find most importantly is I like to give them opportunities to ask questions, because it turns more into a question and answer session. But the gist of I'm going to be talking about how to build a big overland rig, because we can get into that at length about sort of there's some negativity towards big overland rigs, and the biggest one is price, cost. But I'm going to be talking about you can build a big overland rig for not a lot of money. I mean, and that's kind of what I'm going to be doing. So those are my 4 sessions that I'm doing this year. They actually gave me the day off on Friday, so I'm super excited about that. Going to get around to talk to some people, and because I kind of like to bucket my day. The most important things to me is like you had already said, seeing old friends, meeting new ones, getting around, talking to other people. And then connecting with people socially, and then going. If I get a chance, sometimes I still sit into some people's classes. I loved it, and some of the fascinating things like the film presentations and trip slideshows and stuff. Amazing, but. Anyways, I'm going all over the place here.
Oh,
See, that's
no.
what happens when you start drinking this Bacanara.
I'm enjoying it, and not only am I enjoying it, I would recommend this.
Yeah, me too.
I would recommend this.
Me too.
And
Wash it down. I'm also doing iced tea here.
Thank you for sharing with me.
I wonder how it would be mixed with iced tea. That could be an option.
So, I want to know more about what you're going to do moving forward. Now, just so my audience knows, we shouldn't even be here talking.
That's correct.
You shouldn't even be training at Expo.
Nope.
The past couple of years of COVID has really, really done you a job as far as ruining your plans. So let's first talk about what your plans were.
So I like the way you said that, ruining my plans, because it's been the absolute best ruining of plans that I could ever hope for. I mean, it's the best thing that's ever happened. So yes, my original plan was I set out 2 years ago. It's basically 2 years. It's going to be coming up in a couple of weeks. It's 2 years to go around the world. And my mission was, and I wanted to put it to, so I've been to most of Europe. I've traveled throughout Africa. I've been to parts of South America, Central America, obviously North America. I've never been to Southeast Asia, and I've never been to Australia. So I kind of wanted to put the whole thing into one big plan. And I said, let's get rid of everything. Got rid of, basically everything I own. And moved into the Mercedes Unimog and the Overland trailer that I had built that it towed. And I set out. And of course, as I was building it, the trailer, my timing was impeccably poor. The pandemic hits. So I roll out my one last time out of my driveway, say goodbye. That's it. The house is gone. Everything's gone. And, where am I going? And that was the problem. So, it turned into, so the first year was kind of, I went south like a bird. I went south for the winter, stayed warm, Gulf Coast largely, Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, the Carolinas. I stayed mostly East Coast. I got as far west as New Orleans. Backtracked it to New England because I'm still stalling, right? I'm waiting for, at the time, borders are closed. Even if they're open, you don't want to go. There's so many restrictions. Particularly my first, leaving the United States, the route was going the Pan American Highway. So you're going to go through Central America first. Those countries are fairly small. So it's fairly quick crossing borders. And if every time you cross a border, you either got to quarantine or go through some kind of hoops and barrels, it's just simply not worth it, right? So I was kind of in a waiting pattern. So I backtracked it. I went back to the Northeast for the summer. And then this year I left from the Northeast, came across the United States, and headed down towards Mexico. And then I went down to Mexico with two things in mind. Either I was going to continue on the Pan American Highway, or I would backtrack back north again, which is, I'm sitting here with you, so that's what happened. I made the decision to not continue the route down the Pan American because, and people, I think a lot of people don't know this, is that although the pandemic is, I'll call it, coming to an end from a restrictions and border situation perspective, it is really, and it's not just the pandemic, there's multiple other reasons behind this, but it has really caused a devastation to the shipping industry. And in order to do a trip around the world, I have to ship the truck once from a short ferry around the Darien Gap from Panama to Colombia, and then I have to do a big ship from Argentina to South Africa, and then you can drive. My route was driving up through Western Africa, crossing the Strait of Gibraltar on a ferry, and you can go across Europe, across Asia, and then ship to Australia. So that's kind of the route. But it requires two big ships, basically, from South America to Africa, then Asia to Australia. The South America to Africa route is virtually closed. They've pulled, cargo ships and things off. Everybody's listening to the news all the time about supply issues in the United States and, shortages of stuff. And I mean, this is all the global shipping world that we're living in today. So those boats simply are not there. And when they are, they're 10 times the cost that they were 3 years ago.
Right.
So it's become very challenging. And it's not just the pandemic. Obviously, there's other global issues. We have an economy that is, borderline recession. We've got a war going on in Ukraine, which, by the way, was part of the route that I had going across Asia, because most people going across Asia usually go what they call the stands north, because we really can't go through the southern route through Afghanistan and Syria and Iraq and Iran. So you usually go the northern route. So there's all sorts of issues. So I'm kind of in a holding pattern. But getting back to what you said, the worst possible scenario, it's been awesome. It's been awesome. I've met so many people. I fell totally in love with Baja California down in Mexico. That was not even on the route. You could spend, and I tell, because people ask me, they go, Mike, you say you on the side of your truck it says you're going around the world, and I tell them I am, but I didn't realize it was a race. Like, this is not a marathon, people that know me well know that I don't like to drive long distances, so I don't like to I'm not in a rush. It doesn't matter whether it takes, on average, most people that do that around the world route takes 4 to 5 years. Maybe it takes 10 years. Who knows? I'm 2 years in and I'm not out of the continent yet. So I feel blessed by what's happened. The fact that you and I are sitting here outside of Mexican Hat, Utah right now, there's not 1 ounce of negativity about that.
Absolutely.
Not 1 ounce of regret that, man, I should be in, Ecuador or Paraguay or somewhere. I'm not. Will I be? Yes. Will it happen? Yes. It'll happen.
So I just want to let my audience know, we're talking about overlanding. We're talking about bringing a vehicle with you and maintaining it. Mm-hmm. But you can go to some of these countries if you just want to visit. We have a mutual friend, Staples and Tents, who I think they spent...
South Africa, Botswana, I think, maybe Namibia, I think they were around. Oh, you can absolutely travel. I'm not suggesting that you cannot go to these places. The big thing for what I'm going to call the Pan-American highway people was that Ecuador in particular and Colombia were very shut down due to the pandemic. Their borders, they were very strict borders, particularly Ecuador. They have now released that. They've opened the borders because before you really couldn't even get there. But yes, if you want to fly, say there now, you could definitely do it. It's really land borders that were the problem. And you also got to remember, not to be cynical, that many developing countries, particularly I've seen in Africa, love closing their borders. And this happens, pandemic or no pandemic. They love closing their borders. Like any excuse to close a border, to restrict travel for their own people, to restrict people coming and going, communication, whatever it is. So over the years, I've noticed that. So any excuse to be able to keep people from moving more is what happens. And land borders is obviously where that happens. Flying in, these are tourists, right? If you and I get on a plane and we fly to Nairobi, Kenya, we're tourists. We're flying in, and they're not trying to restrict that. That's money coming into the country. Right. But most people do not drive across the border into Kenya, as an example. So those are locals, and those are the people they want to restrict traffic to more often than not.
Yes. It seems as though four-wheel travel in general, there's a lot of obstacles. Just here in America, the trails, they are looking for excuses to shut down trails for any reason. And sadly, our community is contributing to giving them reasons to close down the trails.
It's not only closing down trails that they're trying to limit it. In some ways, they're trying to limit vehicles. I've seen multitude of states that are trying to not register particular vehicles. California is a good example of this. Like my truck, you'd be hard pressed to get my truck registered in California. I know there are a few people that have done it, but it's very difficult to get military vehicles, former military vehicles of that weight. It's hard. So, some states it's easy, but some it is not. And in general, and this is not just the United States, Europe is a big one on this. They're really trying to get older vehicles off the road. There's a big push for that, and many of us, myself included, well, pretty much anything that's older than 5 years old is considered by the government oftentimes as old, right?
Right.
So the push is to try to get those off, and that's a challenge for our community as well. But as you said, a lot of it is land use. It's land use. It's access to things. It's what we do when we're out somewhere. So, I'm very careful. We're camped here in what I would call a pristine environment. But I'm very careful about, making sure that I got paper towels over there. They're not going to blow somewhere. You know what I mean? Like you have to respect where you're at for the next person. And by the way, the next person might be us.
Right.
We might be coming back here, and you and I we don't want to come back here and see a bunch of trash. And that's my biggest pet peeve in America and outside of America. But trash, boy, I'll tell you. I kind of, I've kind of made it my thing now. Sometimes I'll be picking up other people's trash around all over the place, but it's like, come on, people, like just take it out.
Yeah, I was going to say that, yes, we need to have good etiquette. We need to keep these places clean. But if we want to keep being able to roam the world the way we do, we're going to also have to clean up after other people too.
Yeah. And there's no excuse in the United States. Our culture in the United States is everybody pretty much understands that it's not cool to chuck a wrapper out the window. Now, I had this conversation with some people down in Mexico this winter, and that, by the way, is not necessarily the culture everywhere in the world. There are places that exist still today because, look, they're in development stages. They could be 50 to 75 years behind where we are in the States, that you just, you take your Three Musketeers wrapper, you chuck it out the window. That's normal. They don't think anything of it. It's not disrespectful. They're not there yet. That happened here in the States in the 50s probably.
Right. We're way beyond that.
We're beyond that. But you have to understand, in some places, that's just, it's they're getting there. Even in Mexico, I saw recycling bins. I saw multi-use recycling things, different things. But you could still go down what you would consider to be a deserted dirt road, and there was, water bottles and Doritos bags and that stuff. Definitely more common outside of the States, and it's sad, but they're not there yet. But to me, there's no excuse to do it here in the States. And I certainly wouldn't do it in Mexico either, but I get there are cultural differences.
So I like to get philosophical around here.
Oh, boy, hold on. Let me get that Bacanora going here.
Okay, let's have a philosophical shot first.
Okay, let's do that.
And while you're pouring, I'll ask the question.
Okay.
You've traveled the world. You're in the middle of traveling the world as we speak. You train people. You know people. You've done the full gambit. If you could do it all over again, is there anything you would do differently now that you've had these experiences? Now that you know what you know, is there anything you would do differently?
I think I mentioned this to you probably last night sitting around the campfire. I don't have any regrets. You try to live without those, but I think I would have done it or tried to do it full time earlier, because I tell you what, it's one of the scariest things that you can do is to drive out on four wheels and be like, and I remember, I'll never forget, I got to the first, and it was a campground. It was actually an established campground I got to, and I pulled in, and I probably had dinner or whatever. Everything was normal, and then you inevitably get to the point where you're getting ready for bed, and you go, I live here. Well, I mean, I can't go home. Right. He's like, there is no home. And that's a weird experience. Definitely weird. And then, it takes a little bit of time, and then eventually you get to the point where I'm home all the time. That's the greatest thing that I live today, and that I wish I had earlier, is that every day, whether I'm sitting here overlooking this or I'm parked in, like last year, coming across America, I use Harvest Host sometimes. I parked in downtown Oklahoma City in a parking lot next to a brewery. But I'm home.
Right.
No matter where I am. I open my door, I walk in, I'm home.
Right.
And I wish that's the only thing I would change. And I can't tell people enough, and we talked about this a little earlier, don't wait. Just don't wait. You don't know. And I'm not suggesting that you need to be, like me and live in a truck full time on the road, but I hate when I hear people say, I'm going to do this. I've got 2 more years of this work, and then I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to go on this trip. And I say to myself, I go, wow, they know something I don't know. They're telling me they're going to be here in 5 years. I don't know. I'm going to be here in 5 years. How do they know?
Right.
How come I didn't get that memo? And I hate to say, it almost sounds pretentious in a way where they're going to be here. Well, I don't know that. I'm happy as hell. I wake up in the morning. This morning I woke up. I looked out over the river down here, and I go, it's a great day. I got up today. So I tell people, live for today. Don't live in the past. The past happened already. You can't change the past. And don't live for tomorrow because nobody's promised that you have tomorrow. So the best time to live for is right now.
So Nike, give this man a sponsorship. I believe he is the epitome of just do it.
Just do it. And it's right. Just do it.
And I believe that's the most beautiful statement in the world.
Yep. They were right on that when they came out with that. They were right on that.
I use it often because everybody, people come to me and ask me questions, and they're always looking for this special answer. How do I do it? How do I get started? And sometimes they're mad at me for my answer, but it's the right answer. Just do it.
It's the right answer. Drive out of your driveway or wherever you are. And whether you've been telling yourself you're going to go on a week vacation to Moab, Utah, or you're going to go to the Everglades in Florida, whatever it is, just do it. You're not ready. You're not ready. You don't have that gadget. You're missing the nice inflatable air pad under your sleeping bag. Whatever it is, so what? Just do it. And you're going to get down there, and you're going to do it, and you're going to be like, that was one of the greatest experiences I ever had. And but if you wait, and you and I were having the we're aging conversation, which is kind of weird, but it's true. What I did at 20 is not the same as 30, which is not the same as 40, which is not the same, so it goes on and on. And, I don't know how to say it any other way. The younger you do something, the better. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but it's kind of true.
Right.
And not to say that you can't have a great time at, 95. I'm not suggesting that you can't. But, don't assume. Do not assume anything. And that's just that's my philosophical to go down to this philosophical thing, and it's not really philosophical, like you said. Just do it. Just do it.
Thanks for saying all of that.
Whatever you want to do it.
Thank you for saying all of that, Mike. It needs to be said over and over and over and over again, because in social media, where most people get their information from, what they're seeing and hearing is the complete opposite.
Sure, you can Photoshop stuff, and you can make things look glitzy and glammy, and you can suggest that you've just, the greatest thing that's ever happened just happened. It's a picture, right? And it doesn't go any deeper than what you're seeing on your screen. And, I could have put, and I didn't, but I could have put on my social media last night a picture of our trucks with this great view here. And right behind my truck is, a garbage truck, a school stop, and whatever. Now, that's not the case here. We could put the drone up here about a mile in the sky, I think, and there is not a living soul anywhere near us. It's a fantastic location. And those are the ones that I seek out. And sometimes they're hard to find. But just do it. Just do it. Get out there. But don't rely on, I don't want to go down this road. Well, I guess we can go down the road. You want to talk about,
come on.
We're going to give you the anti-social media thing,
While we're on social media.
I hate social media. I hate it. I'm going to just, honest to God truth, can't stand it. And I do it daily.
It's one of the most manipulative things in my life.
Absolutely. And I think I mentioned earlier, the reason I do it, and I continue to do it, and I probably will continue to do it infinitely, is because I get followers. And because I get followers, I get connections. And then I get friends. and we share things and we share adventures, and that's the important part. And remember, social media, what's the definition of social? Social means that they come to you and you go to them. So, when somebody sends me messages, I try to answer every single one, and I try to talk to people. And yeah, it's kind of like a job almost. I wake up in the morning. It takes me about an hour every morning to answer direct messages on whether it's YouTube or Twitter or Instagram or TikTok or wherever it is. But it's a connection. But that's part of social media. If somebody says to you, Mike, that's a great spot. Where are you right now? You don't answer them. You know what I mean? Like, that's not social. Right? That's being an ego.
I see people do that.
Oh, lots of people do that. And that's why I hate social media. Because many people are in social media as an ego thing or a numbers-driven thing, or like how many I want to have more followers than you have, or I'm going to put the best picture up and I'm going to look like, a rock star. I mean, this is the real world, right? I mean, yeah, sure. On Instagram, do we want to put up a nice picture? Of course we want to put up a nice picture. But it's like last week, I think I put up a picture. It's funny. I put up old pictures, not old pictures, when I was building my truck. Mm-hmm. Like before it got painted, it was like camo. And I got a lot of people love that because they were like, oh, show us more. We want to see what it looked like before you built it. And I was kind of surprised because it wasn't your typical glitzy picture with the drone flying over the top. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't the glitz, but... life isn't all glitz.
So we were talking about locations. Let's get into the location that we're at.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully right now you'll be seeing a drone image of where we're at. We're in a beautiful location here, right outside of Mexican Hat, on a trail that is an offshoot of Muley Point. So what do you think about the location?
Phil, I got to thank you. You knew this one. This is amazing. Amazing.
I'm glad to hear that. I was out to impress, so I appreciate hearing that.
And you did. I mean, it's hard to beat this campground, campsite. You can't even call it a campground or a campsite. It's just a place, and we're parked here, and there's nobody else anywhere near us.
Now, if you don't want to be this remote, miles away, not many miles, but miles away, you can camp at a formal campsite.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, not too far away, but it's fascinating. It's just amazing. And in the road coming up here, I don't know how many switchbacks there were. Maybe 20, 30. I don't know, a lot.
Right.
And dirt road.
10% grade.
And you look at it when you're at the bottom, and you're looking at a cliff, and you're going, well, I don't even understand where we're driving to right now. you know,
it plays a trick with your eyes.
It definitely does. Yeah.
But was it as hard as you heard it to be?
So what you're asking me...
Taking the switchbacks?
So what you're asking me, how was it real, or was it Instagram hard?
That is exactly what I'm asking you.
Yeah, so...
So let me preface to your reply. If you go on YouTube, you're probably watching this on YouTube. If you were to search the Moki Dugway Highway and watch some of the overlanders who have taken it, they make it like this road is like a very, very, very hard road.
It's the death march to the top of the hill, with potential sliding off the side, with potential getting stuck in sand, not being able to make the switchback corners, taking a couple breaks because you just got to, stretch out and get your senses back about you.
And you don't stand a chance of making it if you don't have at least 6 rotopacks. You better have your Timbo Tusk.
Yeah, traction
and
control.
And you better have some traction boards.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, yep. And full tank of fuel. And, I would recommend, a lot of sleep the night before. Don't go out. No drinking, yeah.
So we're absolutely joking with you guys.
We're full of complete garbage.
We're making a point. It was actually pretty easy to get here, or I should say to take the Moki Dugway Highway here.
I drove up the hill with a 22,000-pound large overland rig, went around corners, the switchbacks without any issue at all, didn't come in contact with any, rock banks on the inside or any of this stuff. We took it slow. We probably 7 to 10 miles an hour going up it, but it's fine. The point of our joking is that don't always listen to what you see on the gram, for one, and I think
social media period.
Social media period. But it brings us into a more important conversation. And
Absolutely.
I know you and I think about it, but like, as somebody in social media, I feel like I have some responsibility to give it to you the way it actually is. And the reason is if I gave you that outline about how I took breaks and we had traction boards and all the rest of it, you're sitting at home thinking about or looking at this video and saying, this is an amazing place, I want to go there, and then you reconsider and you don't do it. And that's a disservice, because
it's a disservice.
I'm lying to you. I'm telling you that I struggled coming up here, and I didn't. It's easy. It's just because there's a beautiful place on earth doesn't mean it's hard to get to.
Right. It's funny. We're at the Waypoint Overland Southwest Rendezvous that I have every year. Last year and the year before, I had it at Alstrom Point.
Yep.
Same thing. If you type in Overland Alstrom Point, every social media overlander out there makes it like the trip there is the most remote, desolate, dangerous trip you'll ever take. And when we got there, it was a Subaru camp on one cliff. It was not that hard. It wasn't hard at all.
Yeah, and I guess our point is that, we're back to the same thing. Get out there. Just do it.
Find out for yourself.
Find out for yourself.
You grade the trail.
That's right. And my motto of driving or going to places is, if I think while I'm doing it that it's not, remember, my truck is my house, right? So I'm not going to put it into any circumstance where I think I'm endangering it or me. If I think that this is not something I want to do, I stop and I don't do it. And I'll turn around or whatever. But my personality type is one that I'm gonna try most things and see for myself, and not really listen to a lot of the chatter out there, because I know oftentimes, and I would say 98% of the time, what you hear is worse than it actually is. It's very rarely the other direction. Right?
And I 100% agree. But let's not discount that.
It could happen.
It could happen, but it still makes the same point.
Same point.
The information is inaccurate. It could put you out there in a bad situation and change your whole feelings and desires about doing it because of this bad experience from the misinformation that you received.
It leads me into another thing I want to talk about quick, is that everybody has a different mentality on telling people where stuff is. And I know there's people out there that are, that I know, and some of them I'm friends with, that on social media that have a policy of pretty much never disclosing their locations, never giving them out. And then there's people on the opposite side of that spectrum that tell everybody everything they're doing. I tend to fall on the I'm careful about just blasting it out there in the public domain. But what I want you guys to know is, if you want to know about something, direct message me. I will always respond, and I am not the guy that's going to keep things undisclosed or secret. Like, that's not my style. So if you say, hey, how was that drive up Mooley Point? I'm going to just tell it straight up the way it is. And I think that's my take on it. It leads what I'm saying, though. It leads into this conversation about being respectful to locations, environments, keeping them from from a selfish thing, keeping them to yourself. Like, this is such a nice place. I don't want you guys to know about it, because then you're going to ruin it. I'm going to come here the next time. You're going to be all over it. And there is some of that, but I think that it's a big earth. It's just a big world. There's so many places to go. And, it's endless amounts of places like this that I find.
Well, me being involved in social media at all is basically, I wanted to inspire people to do some of the things I was doing and maybe even do more.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I'm coming from. So I would never misinform, because I want you to go and I want you to be prepared properly to go.
Yep.
So that's one thing. As far as revealing locations, I'm judicial about it.
Yeah.
I won't post the coordinates on my social media. If someone direct messages me, that doesn't guarantee you that I'm going to give you the location, but I will vet you and then make a decision about that.
Yeah.
And when I say vetting, just, are you a good person? Are you a person that will respect the land and the location that I'm showing you? And because that's important to me, I just cannot disseminate locations to just the masses. And I can't, just because you asked me, tell you.
Yeah, and there's also a financial element to this, because as many of you guys probably know, it's become more and more common for particularly social media people that have a lot of followers to have paid services, whether it's on Patreon or it's on YouTube, what is it called? Whatever it is. Different services where you pay to be a member. And then you get disclosed, GPS waypoints or locations, or the more you pay per month, the more different stuff you get. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but there's a financial element to it, and you just have to be cognizant of that.
Absolutely. So how do you feel about the idea of selling your locations?
I have a really difficult time taking myself seriously. I just do. I've been told by a number of people that, if I actually put out a YouTube video, I tell people I put out a video every Tuesday, and if I actually did that, I'd have, significantly more subscribers and blah, blah, blah. But when it comes down to it, it's really my motivation for doing what I do is I call it selfish. It's for me, and the more that it seems like a job or something that is a requirement of me to do, the less I'm interested in doing it. So the financial thing is so I feel like if this is me talking, if I'm going to take somebody's money, I have a duty and a responsibility to give them what they're paying for. So and I will say most of the people, and by the way, I'm a Patreon supporter of a number of people out there. So I obviously, I'm supporting them. So I don't think there's anything wrong with the concept. I just, and most of them are very successful, and they deliver on their, quite frankly, they deliver on their promise.
Right.
I'm concerned that I wouldn't deliver where I am right now. Now, if I were to put a video out every Tuesday and I was going to give waypoints of where I'm going and back, whatever it is, behind the scenes stuff, or, you can, some of them do it where you can, here's my phone number, call me when you're building your truck. I've considered all of that. By the way, I have a Patreon page that's not launched. I've considered it back and forth. I haven't made a decision on that yet. I do think there's a break-even point at which where you have a certain subscription base that it makes it worth it. But remember, it's still financial to some extent, and I'm not financial, and I'm not that I don't like money, because everybody does, but that's not my motivator. I'm out here doing what I do, and it's not about the money. And in fact, my mentality is completely opposite that. If I had $1 billion in the bank, this would not be nearly as fun. Because, hell, we could have just got a helicopter to drop us this location. You know what I mean? So part of the adventure is that you're able to do it. And, right now, my truck is a good example of this. I'm doing it in a vehicle that I built myself on a budget that I set, and I kept to it. And that's important to me, and that's what made it more fun.
So you mentioned the bill. If you were a billionaire, you wouldn't travel the same.
I don't know that I wouldn't travel the same, but you sure wouldn't. there would probably be things that
options.
would not go through your mind that potentially go through your mind now. And I think we all face like that. It's like, okay, here we have a choice today. And, whether it's, we could be talking about pennies here. Whether it's, we're going to camp, Phil and I are going to camp at the top of this peak here, and it's free, right? We're not paying for this. This is just public land. We're camping, which is, by the way, what I do the vast majority of the time. Now, we could have chosen to camp at a established campground where you pay whatever it is, going rate, probably around $30 a night. Now that's $30. Not a big deal, but hey, if you did it 365 days a year, that's a big deal. That comes out of a budget that you could be using for doing something else or traveling more or whatever. So I think, if you were, had unlimited amounts of money, then you may not have a debate in your mind. Should I stay in this campground or should I go to this BLM land?
So I want to give them a deeper look into the overlander's mind and how he thinks and plans. Like you mentioned, the $30. $30 may seem really small to a person, but you should be filling up your tank every time you go to half, right? So for a majority of the vehicles prior to this big gas hike that we got, $30 is a fill up.
Well, think of it. $30 is $1,000 a month, basically. So it's $1,000 a month mortgage or a rent, right? So that's your living expense. Forget about all the other things like fuel and food and everything else. But so for me, as a full-timer, I talk a lot of people approach me because I'm full-time. A lot of people approach me that are either considering going full-time or are already full-time and have questions. I tell people on average, and I've kind of been going around the van life circuit a little bit too. What I'm hearing is, and what I'm seeing is, between $25,000 and $35,000 a year is what your average nomad probably would likely spend in a year living full time on the road. And remember that that obviously now that's not taking into account necessarily, everybody has individual spending preferences, meaning they're going to eat out or drink every night at a bar or but like your general nut of, I'll call it your what would be considered your home living expenses. If you had a house, your rent, your utilities, your mortgage, whatever, all those things, that's kind of your on the road living. So it's mostly food, fuel, and paying to be in places or entrance fees to parks or whatever that is. That's about where you'd expect to fall. And I thought about that for a long time, trying to figure out is because people approach me all the time and like, you must have tons of money. You live full time on the road. And in their minds, I think they're thinking that costs $200,000 a year. I don't know what number they're thinking, but they're thinking it's a lot. To me, $35,000 a year is not a lot. It's not a lot of money as a living overhead, because I can tell you, even in a cheap apartment somewhere, by the time you pay for that and your phone and your cable and your internet or whatever, you're spending more than that.
Right, I agree.
So, yeah.
So I want to change gears a little bit.
Yeah.
We could have done the whole podcast on this, in my opinion. I've got so much to say about it myself, but I want to hear from you.
Yeah.
I want to talk about a dirty little secret in the overland world. You typically go to trainings, not Overland Expo, but little trainings, or you watch YouTube. Everyone always suggests that you should travel with someone. And I agree with that. But the dirty little secret about overlanding is most people I encounter are traveling solo. What's your experience?
Yeah, we could spend probably 4 podcasts talking about this. My experience now being on the road for 2 years and meeting a lot of people that are on the road full time. And by the way, I'm surprised at how many people travel on the road, whether it's full time or half a year or what I would be considered to be significant amounts of time. There's a lot of people that travel solo. A lot of people, both male and female. I could tell you just this winter where I was located in Baja, and I was kind of blessed with the fact that I didn't move my truck much. So I was sort of stationed in one place, and I went out and explored everywhere on my motorcycle. But so I was kind of the guy with the lawn chair, like we are now, sitting and watching people come and go. So I had the opportunity to see hundreds and hundreds of people come through the arroyo that I was camped in. And I would tell you, if I had to pick a percentage, it was at least 50%. At least 50% were solo. At least.
That's a lot.
And I would wager it was probably higher than 50%. And it didn't. And it wasn't defined to any particular characteristic.
Right.
So it wasn't an age group thing. It wasn't a nationality thing. It wasn't a kind of vehicle thing, because we had schoolies and vans and big overland rigs and rooftop tent campers. We had all sorts of people coming through. Vast majority of people probably nowadays as prevalent as vans. There's a lot of vans, and I actually, this might be shocking, and maybe this is more of a figment of where I was, but I would say there was even a higher percentage, slightly higher than 50-50 of women that were solo.
I see a very, very large uptick of women solo traveling.
I think the van thing has opened that up a lot.
Yes.
The access and the ability to acquire what I'm going to call easier trucks to acquire. Mm-hmm. Less to do, because there's a lot of them that come out of the factory or easier to modify.
Yeah, and driving these vehicles, it's not as physical as it once was.
That's right. Yeah. Yep. True. For everybody.
So I just want to get this out in the air on social media. I feel like there needs to be more things to address solo travel, since there is such a significant amount of solo travelers.
Yeah. So I originally set out to go around the world, and my intention was not and never has been to do it by myself.
Oh, really?
I always wanted to have a co-pilot, and I'm going to tell you my philosophy on that a little bit. It's sort of like if we looked out over this expanse here, and it's just beautiful. You kind of want to share it with somebody. You know what I mean? Because I could put it on social media, or I could tell friends about it or whatever, and say, this is an amazing place, blah blah blah. It's not the same as sharing it with somebody, because then you both saw it, right?
Right, in real time.
In real time. So my dream was always to travel with somebody. And that's a loaded thing, because as you know, and Overland Expo actually had asked last year, I think they were going to put on I think they're doing it, a solo travel forum panel thing talking about this kind of thing. Because I think there's a lot of people, I'm going to tell you that my opinion is a lot of them are solo. There's a good percentage of them don't want to be.
I agree with that.
Having said that, I also firmly believe that anybody that you find that is a nomadic style, has a nomadic style life, that travels, whether it's full-time or part-time, likes to be alone. There's an element of soloness. Like, I have no problem if you weren't here, sitting here in my truck looking at this by myself and spending a week here by myself.
Same here.
Or, going into town, sitting at a bar, eating dinner by myself. Like, that's fine. And I think most people of our sort of personality type are great with that. Doesn't preclude that you are not interested in necessarily doing it together. But the problem, I think, is traveling. So I'll take myself as an example. I put myself under the hot seat here. So I'm out on the road, right? Mm-hmm. And if I'm looking for a co-pilot to travel with me, how do you do that when you're on the road? We've had like group get-togethers where we joke about it. It's like, hey, maybe we should start an app, some dating service or something for overlanders or for people that travel on the road. And there's a few options out there that are like that. But as you know, it's obviously much more complicated than that. Look, if I had an apartment in Boston and I wanted to eventually, meet the girl of my dreams, it's a little easier. You go on a social media platform, you go out there and you can you can talk in advance, you can send pictures, you can do whatever go out for coffee, go out for a beer, and develop a relationship that way. Well, how do you do that when you're on the road? You're always moving.
Right.
So, well, I'm in Mexican Hat today, but tomorrow I'm in Flagstaff, and by then I'm going to be in California, and then, I think I'm going, So, I mean, that makes it really difficult. Number one. Number two, if I meet the person in an environment where I have a full-time place, eventually, you each have your own place. It all works out great. You move in together. Well, same concept, I guess, right? Living in a truck, you're going to move in eventually together. Well, what in the hell does that look like? I mean, try to put two people in a 135 square foot space. Mm-hmm. This is different, right? And what does that look like when, let's say you did hypothetically meet somebody else that was on the road, also solo? What do? Drive together with your two trucks for a while and then decide that this was working out good. Now we're going to move in. Do I move into her truck? Does she move into my truck? How does this work?
I've witnessed this many times.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so this is it's interesting dynamic, and it's a group. But so in concept, many people that you're going to meet potentially, for me, I have a lot in common with probably because we're both doing the same stuff. So right now, okay, they both like outdoors, they like to travel. There's a lot of things that you can check off the boxes. Okay, this is going to work. But as we all know, not that this is going to be Dr. Phil here or something, but like, it's a lot more complicated to having a successful relationship than that.
I believe for a solo traveler, finding a partner is harder. One, because you're doing something most people don't do, but also because you need to be in alignment so much more with your thinking and your wants and your desires, because you're always with each other and there's no escaping from each other.
No.
Outside of that community, and I guess I'll call it the real world.
Yeah, right.
You don't have to be in so much alignment in thinking. You can actually be opposites and live together and be married forever.
You could be living in a house and you could go to different rooms. As an example, this is in a nutshell. You can both have your private alone time inside a potential place that you both live in.
Right.
Well, I don't know anybody's van overland rig, regardless of what size it is, that has that size, where I can close the door and be in a different place. Now, you might say, we got outside. We live outside 99% of the time. So there are options there. But living, not to get off the topic, but being on the road when traveling is not all glamorous. Like people look at it, I get that all the time. Boy, you must have money, and it's so glamorous. You get to do all this stuff all the time. Well, come on. We still go grocery shopping. We still do laundry. We still have to figure out how to wash the truck occasionally because it's a disaster and you get anywhere near it, you get dirty. You still have to, fill water, find places to dump tanks, blah, 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 blah. It's, it's not like, maintenance on the vehicle, breakdown potential. There's all sorts of stuff.
Every day.
Finding a place to stay is maybe less so for me because I have a mentality about how I travel. But I do know many people that are in the nomadic lifestyle move a lot. So their biggest thing is trying to find a place to go to bed. Which you don't worry about these things when you have a house or an apartment.
Right. And that's very important, especially when we're talking about solo travel. Your security measures are totally different than when you're with someone.
Totally true.
Like, I'll just mention one. I have to be very strategic when I'm shopping when I'm on my trips. Because I have a lot of expensive things in my vehicle.
That's right.
That I have to be worried and concerned about.
Yep.
Well, when you got a partner, they just stay in the car, you do the shopping and come back.
Yep. That's right.
And that's just one thing.
Yep, that's a great point because it's like, yes, and typically when you're shopping, you're going into a populated area, which is less secure. So, I mean, that's right. And that's kind of why, that's another reason why I would love to have a partner, because look at that, I don't want to admit this out loud, but you're going up, and I was going to do some filming going up the switchbacks. Well, probably not the greatest idea on planet Earth. If you had somebody else in the vehicle, they could be doing the filming for you instead of you drive, they film, or vice versa. I film, they drive. So there's a lot of things that you can split duties and tasks and things, but all of these things obviously are complicated. But the solo travel thing is a phenomenon that I believe is increasing.
Yes.
And it is noteworthy to discuss and talk about, because it's something that is going to come to a head at some point where I think that there's people that make decisions based on it. Like, I'll give you an example, another example of going down security. I know people that are hesitant about going to mainland Mexico by themselves. Mm-hmm. If they had a partner, somehow they feel more secure. Which I get that. That's a mental thing. Mm-hmm. Or even, honestly, and I've done this in other places too. You're more secure, I think, when you have a couple of vehicles.
I agree.
So, these things come up. And then the more people I see solo, the more I do become concerned with some of that. And then there needs to be a, some kind of, forget about the dating app concept, but bringing like-minded solo people together, even if they're not, it's not towards a dating perspective, but it's like, okay, X person in this van and X person in this van, they both travel by themselves. They can get together and they can cross Mexico together. What facility is going to provide that? So I think that's something that's coming along in our kind of world of overlanding here.
There's so many negatives as things progress, but there's many, 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 many more positives to overlanding, in my opinion. But when it comes to solo travel, I think the minuses increase for you significantly. I'm married, no issues there. But when I'm on my trips, even though I know my wife has no interest in doing this overlanding thing and getting out like that, I often come to places and I wish that she was there with me. Mm-hmm. I know she didn't want to do the trail to get here,
but she wants to see the view.
But I wish she was here seeing the
that's
view.
Right. Yep.
You know what I mean?
And that's what makes it difficult too. If somebody is looking to travel full time with somebody, now they both have to be so in line that they are okay with the means of travel, and that leads me to something else I talk about a lot is when you're traveling, whether it's full time, part time, or even weekend stuff. One of the things that's the most important, because people ask, what's the most important thing do you have on board your truck or whatever? The most important thing is comfort. Everybody has a different definition of comfort.
Yes.
So if you're going to be talking about the solo thing or coming together, you got to have the same dynamic. You have to have the same needs. So if mine is, I have to have a bed that I don't have to fold out every day and make. If that's what's important to me, that has to be important to them. And maybe that's not what's important to them. Maybe what's important to them is that they, I don't know. Maybe it's their campground locations or how many miles a day they drive. Because everybody's different about these things.
I agree.
Or when you eat, or what you eat, or it goes on and on.
I see this exposed in a lot of overland couples. I'm talking to the husband, and his biggest obstacle to getting this thing going is making sure the wife, and if they have kids, the kids comfortable and happy.
Yep.
So that's a very big thing.
Yep. But both people have to be happy, because if you spend all your time trying to make the other person or people happy, potentially you're making yourself unhappy. So you have to be careful about that. That's why the alignment is so important.
Right. I try not to talk about that online, but I see that all the time. So I'm just going to go with it. I'm going with it, Mike.
Yeah.
Do you know how many guys I meet that walk up to me and they be like, I wish I could do what you were doing, but the wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this isn't a husband-wife thing.
No.
Because I also know women that are out here getting it, and they're bringing the husband along.
I do too. Yep.
And they're like a ball and chain for real.
Yep.
Because you're shortening your itineraries, you're changing your itineraries. You buy a vehicle that you don't buy the vehicle that you want.
Compromise is the word. Whenever you compromise, both people are kind of losing.
They are losing.
They're losing because neither one of you is getting what you want. And that's the challenge.
Well, we've spoke about this already. That is the basis of my marriage, is no compromise. She gets what she wants, I get what I want.
Yep.
When I don't get what I want, I enjoy that she got fully
what she wanted. Yeah.
You know, it's not all about me. It's not all about her.
Right.
It's also about giving to that other person, or why are you with them?
Yeah.
So you should get some satisfaction out of, and gratification too, that I submitted in this particular situation, and I let her have everything she wanted, how she wanted it.
Yep.
But you should also get that back.
Yep.
Because like I know a bunch of guys who they basically told me their decision to buy a particular vehicle was because this is the one that I can bring into the household under the radar before I start adding on things and she realizes what direction I'm going.
Right. That's right. So I'm driving a Toyota instead of a Jeep that I really wanted, or vice versa. Yeah.
Do you have no idea how many people have come up to me and said those exact words?
Yep.
I would like to. I'm gonna let that go.
We're gonna let that go because we've covered a lot of things here, but it's a slippery slope. We don't want to roll down it.
Right, and I have a lot of Toyota friends.
Yep.
So, and I know they all didn't do it for that reason.
Correct. That's right.
So I don't want to start nothing.
It's funny, because I haven't been a Land Rover guy. We joke about this, like, that animosity is a strong word, but like, between the Jeep and the Land Rover and the Toyota and the Jeep and the and then here I am driving, the big Overland rig, and we get just smacked. I can't tell you how many times I get, you're destroying the world. That's not very fuel efficient. You're causing global warming. I've heard it all. Trust me. I love Whole Foods, but I try to stay out of that parking lot. That's not safe. But it's like, and it's, unfortunately, it's not common sense, right? Because, I try to explain to them, I say, hey, my carbon footprint is probably one of the lowest people in America. I've lived now, this is now going on almost 7 months. I'm living on solar power. Right. I'm not plugged into anything. I'm not draining any resource from solar, right? And and I don't own a house any longer.
Right.
And I don't have multiple cars. And I don't have a guy mowing my lawn. And I don't have somebody plowing my driveway that I had before. All these things contribute to a carbon footprint, right? Which is a are we going to put this live anywhere? Because I want to. No, because I get on a rant here. Because you're talking about and then people are like, well, it's electric car or this and that. Oh yeah, great. So it's got a lithium battery that they mined in Russia, and then it's draining, leaching into the water supply, and then we got to somehow dispose of them. Oh, and by the way, when you plug your Prius into a plug, the power is coming from a coal power plant, right? So. People wake up. Like, this is the world. Like, I love realism.
Right.
Just tell it to me real.
Yes.
Like, do your best. Try to help out. Let's not destroy the earth. There's no plan B, right? There's no alternate world. But at the same time, can we please live in reality? Come on.
Yes. I'm in 100% in agreement with you.
That felt so good.
Yes. We're feeling a breeze right now. I am considering on the podcast doing a 1-week evaluation of the carbon footprint of the average family versus a solo traveler in his vehicle for a week.
Well, you should definitely pick a ginormous vehicle like mine or an Earth Roamer or something like that, because those are the ones that are attacked, initially.
Right, because I'm even thinking about where we're at right now. I have a house in Vegas, which is a similar climate. So if you're living like Utah, Vegas, just your air conditioning bill blows your carbon footprint out the water.
And where does the power for the air conditioning come from? I mean, so the problem anybody has with talking about any kind of carbon footprint or anything that's environmental is that you have to trace it back to the origin.
Yes.
And then you have to also trace it on your post-origin. So you got to trace it from what you did and what the result of that is. So whether it's you used a battery and now you've got to dispose of the battery, or you use this and you got to, or shit, it's a car and eventually the car is going to be old and then you got to dispose of that. What happens to that? Is it recycled? Is it thrown in where does it go? So I mean, there's lots of consideration to it.
I agree.
But I do feel like that in the overlanding, trying to keep it to overlanding here a little bit, in the overlanding world, it comes up. It comes up because it's sort of the same thing as you see on TV. People talk about, hey, here's Jeff Bezos or whoever flying around in their private jet. Well, it's the same concept when people see you traveling a lot, driving, visiting, using resources, and I think that comes up.
But let's just take you, for example. You're retired. I could just break it down to one element like I did with the air conditioning. The average person, the carbon footprint that they produce just by going to work every day
is huge.
Is much more than a person who is somewhere sitting remote, relaxing with solar energy.
That's right. That's right. They're driving their vehicle. They're using resources. They're probably likely going to lunch somewhere. At a maybe a deli or a restaurant around the corner from their work, which is using X number of resources. It all goes. We all use stuff. Every one of us is using energy or things. That's just the way it is.
Wow. This has been awesome. This has been awesome. I wish I could recover the two other interviews just so we could compare them.
Thank God we can't, because as much as we said today, who knows what we said the last time? I can't remember. Did we drink?
We didn't drink. We covered totally different topics each time.
We did. We might have to make a series eventually, maybe.
I would love that. So before we get out of here, I want to make sure that everybody knows how to find you, not just on social media, but let's start first with, if you're headed down to Flagstaff, Arizona for Overland Expo, how does somebody find you if they want to say hi?
At Overland Expo, I will be at the showcase vehicle section next to the vendors. Love to say hi to everybody. Come and see me. That's what I'm there for. You can find me online at all of the social medias at Drive the Globe. My website is drivetheglobe.com. I drive down the road. I got drivetheglobe.com on the side of the truck. I can't tell you how effective that is because I get people hit me from the vehicle, sending me videos of them driving by and whatnot. And like I said, it's all about connecting because at the end of the day, I tell people my goal for traveling is to bring it home to people that are either are not doing it, don't want to do it, don't have the means yet, thinking about it. But it'll be a better world if you can, if people, particularly Americans, and I'm not trying to rain on the American parade, but if people just got out of their box and realized that the guy that you meet in the village in Costa Rica is the same as the people that you're going to meet here. And I think half our problems in the States are caused by people not getting out of their own box. Everybody wants to be in a box.
Well said. Well said. Mike, so now just tell them in general, how does somebody get in contact with Mike? At
Drive the Globe, social media, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, all of the above, drivetheglobe.com.
That's right, Drive the Globe.
And if you go drivetheglobe.com, you could track me, and it's kind of a giveaway. I forgot because I didn't turn off my tracker. You can go to my website and tell and look right now and see exactly where my truck is parked.
Okay. So that wraps up the interview. I want to first say, you already know, I'm happy to see you. I enjoyed doing this interview. Thanks for hanging out with me at this year's rendezvous. Thanks for sitting down and talking to me for a third time for this interview.
We'll try not to do it again.
But I've always heard the third time is a charm.
That's right.
And it looks like this is a good example of that.
Well, thank you. Really appreciate you inviting me here, and it's been awesome, and we are going to have a couple more days of some super fun.
All right, everybody. That's the end of the show. You know what I'm going to say. Everybody stay safe, tread lightly, and hopefully I'll see you here or on a trail soon.
You have been listening to Waypoint Overland's Random Waypoints. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.